You talked about getting off to a quick start, and that was the first question you brought it up to me last night when I texted you after the game. And well, actually, it was later in the evening, but you asked, because you hadn't seen the game yet, did Iowa attempt to get the ball downfield early? I told you in my response, I said, if they did, I missed it. Now, maybe protection broke down, Petrus missed guys. You watched the game back, Don. Did Iowa take chances and we just missed them because of other circumstances that were out of, Petrus' control?
No, I after looking at the game, of course, I only looked at the TV version of the game, but it doesn't appear that we took any shots downfield, even planned to have any shots downfield. Most of the balls that were thrown were of the short, quick variety of throws, and of course we were off target on any number of those, and that left us with Spencer finished with a little less than 5 yards per attempt, and of course that's not good enough. We got to be able to do better than that.
Don, that was the one parameter that was 100%, right? And I think I can say that now, given the game is in our rearview mirror. Wisconsin, right. You lose, and it's not like they're not like they're Alabama and they were 7-0 heading into this game. They were 4-3, and my understanding of that parameter, Don, is the analytics say that in the 4 wins that Wisconsin had, they won the first quarter. In their 3 losses, they lost the first quarter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So certainly Iowa did not get out to a quick start. 1 first down in the first half, 0 first downs in the first quarter.
Right.
20-0 at halftime. Third quarter, there was some life. It seemed like, it was 20-7. Iowa had a nice drive. It was 20-7, and it felt like at 20-7, Iowa was driving into Wisconsin territory. And a lot of people were upset yesterday, Don, by the fullback call on 4th and 1. I was not terribly upset about it because I'm not an offensive coordinator, but I looked at it and I said, man, I don't know what I would have called. Don, would you have? I know it's hindsight, but I'm not asking you to second guess Brian, but what would you have called in that situation if you were in that position?
Well, when you look at the game situation, it's 20-7. I've got it written down here. 3rd and 2 on the plus 41. There was 4 minutes left in the third quarter, roughly. And we ran the fullback dive for 1 yard. That was against a 9-man front. It was a heavy front. They were daring us to throw the ball. They had press coverage on our one outside receiver that was in the lineup. And they had a free safety back playing center field, so to speak. So we ran the fullback for 1 yard, and then of course ran the fullback again versus the same kind of 9-man front, and fell. I don't know that we got a very good spot, but that's part of the risk you take, of course, when you run into a pile of bodies. Honestly, I was thinking this way as I saw it. Even if we convert on 3rd and 2, we're the same team that's been struggling to make first downs. So if you want to talk about an opportunity for a chunk play, then an ideal opportunity would have been 3rd and 2 on the plus 41. And what we needed was a 41-yard touchdown. That's what we needed, because we were still 2 scores down. And, of course, we're late in the third quarter. There's only 19 minutes left in the game. So we need to find a way to get a chunk play. And the argument for running play action on 3rd down is you still got 4th down anyway. So let's face it, 4th and 2 is not much different than 4th and 1. And so one logical thought would be go play action on 3rd and 2. And if you hit it, great. And if you don't, you still got 4th down. And again, the better chance, I think, against a team like Wisconsin is to spread the field a little bit. I'm not talking about going empty. That would be lunacy, of course, because we're not going to ask Spencer to run the ball out of an empty set. But nothing wrong with maybe getting into a spread formation and having Tyler in the backfield, and then running any play in our offense, really. Everything from a short throw for a first down to some kind of play that at least spreads them out. The formation spreads them out a little bit, and maybe it's a quick hitter, and it kind of depends on what's worked up until then. Maybe that's a call for you on 4th and 2. But even when we're talking about 4th and 2, we're assuming we didn't hit on 3rd and 2. I'd like to think with play action, we would have hit something big on 3rd and 2. And I realized maybe the percentage is only 30%. Well, my gosh, we're 2 scores down. I believe I'd roll the dice even if it was 30% on 3rd and 2, because I'm going to turn around and go for it on 4th down anyway.
Right. Don, there was a 2nd and 1, and I don't know if it was first quarter. I think it was first quarter. There was a 2nd and 1. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was second. I don't know. Doesn't matter. There was a 2nd and 1 in the first half, Don. And I looked at my brother who I was watching the game with, and I said, you take a shot here. You take a shot here. Handoff. And up until that point, they hadn't taken any shots. And I guess, and I know it's so easy to look at plays in hindsight, but I believe they got a first down on that run play. But I guess those are the plays that bother me the most, Don, because as far as being opportunistic with your shots down the field, isn't 2nd and 1 like the perfect opportunity to line up and go play action deep?
Yes, that's a good opportunity.
Did you feel the same thing? Do you remember the play that I'm talking about? Because there weren't very many 2nd and short yardage situations in the game. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Are you sure it was maybe not in the first half, but sometime second half? I'm thinking
it could have been third quarter. I just remember a 2nd and 1, and it was one of the few 2nd and 1s they had in the game.
I believe it was third quarter. The only reason I say that is we only had the one first down at the end of the half, and that one I believe came pretty late in the half, as I recall. A couple of minutes left in the half. Yeah, that's an ideal time. One of the things you always look for. Put it this way: if I'm a head coach and I'm scouting another team, one of the things I want the defensive staff to know for sure is how often do they use waste downs. And the reason I want to know that, if they use them a lot, then for God's sakes, there's no excuse for us being fooled on a waste down. Then you expect play action, you expect them to try to get a big play, and you're ready for it. You're not going to take the bait. Other teams hardly ever use a waste down, and that's fine too, because now you can load up and anticipate them simply to try to make that first down. But in general, a lot of smart football teams use waste downs, and you better be prepared for that opponent to do the same thing.
Paul Hoffer, could they finish 6-6? I know we're all pushing the panic button. I still don't think that's going to happen. I get people are frustrated. Northwestern's not a good football team right now, Don. I mean, they are just, every time I think Patty Fitz is going to figure out a way to get that thing on track, it just seems to fall off even deeper. Again, we can talk about Northwestern later in the year, but later in the night, but what is your outlook right now for this offense? How much improvement can be made? I know there's limited amount of improvement that can really be made mid-season with the O-line. Is this where are you at right now as far as your outlook these next 4 games, these final 4 games?
Well, sometimes I quote Bill Brazier, our old defensive coordinator, and Bill one time said, "You're never as bad as you think you are, and you're never as good as you think you are either." And right now, there are some fans that think we're not very good, but they're wrong. We're actually better than that. We just simply ran into a buzzsaw in Wisconsin, and we didn't help our cause as much as we might have. And that relates to, taking chances to make big plays, things like that. But the good news is, I think we are a better football team than Northwestern. I'm certainly confident we'll be able to prove that next Saturday night. Not saying it's going to come easy, because Fitz is a really good coach, and Northwestern delights in beating Iowa. There's no doubt about that. I don't know if the listeners are aware, but Coach Fitz actually broke his leg against Iowa years ago, and I think he still holds it against us a little bit, that he had a really serious injury against the Hawkeyes. But at any rate, I fully expect that we'll beat Northwestern, and it may not come easy, but I still think we'll find a way to do it. And then 1 week later, let me get my game straight. We get the Gophers, don't we, 1 week later? That'll be a challenge because they're playing well. But the good news is, just as Purdue seems to own Iowa, we seem to own Minnesota. Has PJ ever beaten Kirk? I don't think so. You can look that up. I know it hadn't happened often. I'm not sure it's happened at all. So it'll be a tough game because the Gophers have a lot to play for. They're going to be highly motivated, and yet we're right back here at Kinnick, and our football team has great pride, and certainly they're going to prepare like they always do, regardless of what happens against Northwestern. We're going to prepare, and we're going to fight like hell to find a way to beat the Gophers. So I really acknowledge that'll be a difficult game because they have so much to play for. They will be highly motivated to win the game, regardless of the struggles they might have had against recent years. And then beyond that, of course, you've got Illinois at home, at our place, I should say. And I have great confidence we'll beat the Illini because they have maybe more injury issues than we do at this point. And obviously they don't have great talent. They managed to get a great win against Penn State. And incidentally, I wasn't surprised that Penn State played the heck out of Ohio State. I could see that coming because Penn State has pride too. And so they bounced back with a really good effort. So the bottom line, these last 4 games, the 2 I'm most worried about would be the Gophers and the Cornhuskers over in Lincoln. That one concerns me because that offense, they always have a way of self-destructing, it seems. It happened again, right? Purdue beat them, but it was a struggle. I haven't seen the numbers from that game, but I do know this. They're one of the few teams in the country that's averaging maybe 225 a game rush and 250 pass. They're averaging certainly something over 450 yards total offense per game. Without turnovers, of course, they'd be sitting pretty. And they've actually improved on defense. So that'll be a struggle. I don't care what anybody says. It will not be easy to win in Lincoln. But again, I like our chances. If we're measuring character and commitment and mental toughness, I'd put our team up against anyone. And for those reasons, I think we have a chance to win all 4 of them. I readily acknowledge maybe we'll stub our toe. But I think the other team's going to have to play well to cause us to do that because I think our guys are highly motivated. And in their minds, 10-2 certainly sounds a lot better than 9-3 or 8-4. Corey, I've lost you. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now, Don?
Yes.
Apologize. That was my fault. This is my opinion, and this certainly, we don't know this. I think 10-2 will win the West. A lot of Iowa fans still, or at this point, are thinking the West is out of reach. It's over. We blew it. I think 10-2 will win the West, and let me tell you why. Purdue's going to lose again. If you look at their schedule, they will lose again. All right. If Iowa beats Minnesota, they'll have the head-to-head against Minnesota, and they'll have the same Big Ten record, assuming Minnesota doesn't lose again. But even if they win out and Iowa beats them, they'll have the same record as Iowa. So all Iowa would need, really, is for Wisconsin to lose again. Now, that may not happen, but they do get Minnesota the last week of the season. So I believe there's a good chance 10-2 will still win the West, Don. What are your thoughts?
Let me get this straight. You're banking on us beating Minnesota, giving them that would just be their second loss, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they'd have 2 losses. And, of course, we're banking on Minnesota beating Wisconsin,
Correct.
which certainly might happen. And, of course, we have to win out, too. That would give us – and, of course, Purdue has to lose another game, which we certainly expect will happen in Columbus. I believe they have to go to Columbus.
I believe
so. That would leave us with a 3-way tie, and we would have all beaten each other. Is that right?
No. Because Purdue is at 2 losses right now. So
Right.
Purdue loses again, they'll be out of the mix. And you said 3-way tie. Wisconsin, let me look at think about this. Wisconsin, how many losses does Wisconsin have? They have 2 Big Ten losses, correct?
They do.
So another loss to Minnesota would make it a 2-way tie at the top between Minnesota and Iowa. So one more loss for Wisconsin would put Wisconsin out of the mix, assuming Iowa wins out.
You said another loss to Wisconsin. I'm sorry.
If Wisconsin loses again, which we're assuming they lose to Minnesota.
Okay, and you're counting on us beating Minnesota, of course.
Right. We've got to win out. We have to win out at this point.
You're right. That would give them a 3rd loss. You're exactly right. At that point, we would only have
over.
We would just have a 2-way tie.
And we would have the tiebreaker because we'd have beaten Minnesota.
That is a scenario that's entirely possible.
Absolutely.
So
the sky is not look, if the offense doesn't improve, it's probably not going to happen because you're probably not going to win out, Don. I mean, Minnesota's hot right now. I know they struggle with Nebraska, but honestly, everybody's struggling with Nebraska. Michigan struggled with Nebraska. That's why Nebraska's so dangerous, as you brought up. Yep. But I honestly do believe that Minnesota, like you said, Iowa's had Minnesota's number. And we're also assuming that Wisconsin's going to beat Rutgers this weekend, which probably will happen. But Rutgers won this past weekend, right? I mean, Rutgers is not Rutgers of the previous era. Shiano's at least got them with a different mindset. I think they're winning some games, which they used to never win at all. So I do think that Wisconsin is going to lose again. I wouldn't put money on it, but chances are they do. And so Iowa's just got to focus one game at a time, like you brought up. Now, Sam Kim asks a question here, Don. I'll make this bigger so you can read it. A limited QB, limited play sheet. What does Ferentz change, Coach? So I know that's a loaded question because you can take a lot of different ways, but certainly specifically towards the quarterback and the playbook, what does Iowa do to turn this offense around?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is you got to for sure have the mentality that you got to play to win. So you got to take shots. And I'm not talking about just throwing the ball up for grabs. I'm talking about calculated shots. And the prime example I can think of that you're familiar with is our touchdown pass at the end of the Penn State game. That was a well-conceived play that was well executed, and it ended up being the winning touchdown. So, the challenge for our coaches is be able to come up with, just to pick a number out of a hat, I'd say be able to come up with 4 of those plays every week. 4 plays that have a chance for a big gainer. And the defense has no idea when those 4 plays might show up. But if we need all 4 of them, then let's call all 4 of them. And let's not waste them. We talked about this before, Corey. Maybe it needs to be against a zone look and not a man look. You don't want to take those kind of throws maybe against a pressure snap. So you simply school the quarterback. If you think you got pressure, then you got to get out of the play. Save the play. We'll turn around and call it again. And as I mentioned before, I don't know that we've ever had to call one more than twice. Usually we guess right the first time. And we run it the first time we call it. And typically, if you talk to the players from years ago, they would tell you most of those plays seem to work. And it's not a shock to me because it looked good on a chalkboard. It looked good on video. And if we can execute, and that's where the preparation comes in, if we can execute the play, you've already got the element of surprise, because they haven't seen you run that play. It's a play maybe that was devised for that particular game based on what you've seen on video. And when you call it, you got a pretty good chance to execute it and hit on it. And as I mentioned before, if you call 4 of them in a game, even if you only hit on 1 out of 4, maybe that's the game-winning touchdown. That's what you could certainly say happened in the Penn State game. So just for the record, though, what if you hit on 2 of them? Well, maybe they're both touchdowns. Or if not, they're certainly chunk plays. They're big gainers that flip the field. And that's what you need, of course, is to here's what I know about defenses. Any defensive coach will tell you this, especially if you get fooled a little bit with the play and it's a big gainer, that just really tears your heart out, as far as a defense goes. It's demoralizing because you fought so hard to prevent your opponent from moving down the field, and all of a sudden on one snap, they picked up 40 yards. And it's demoralizing to let that happen, of course. So it energizes your team, and at the same time, it demoralizes the other team.